published 17:30 Eastern Daylight Saving Time, the 14th of May 2018, updated 17:30 Eastern Daylight Saving Time, the 14th of May 2018. Gareth Southgate was supposed to be a yes man, or a company man, or a nice man, too nice to make the big calls as England manager, that is for sure. Now he has proven to be none of these things. He is supposed to be a man who does not know what the England team need. A midfield playmaker. Someone such as Jack Wilshere or John Joe Shelvey, or maybe both. Yet credit the England manager with some savvy, at least. Gareth Southgate was supposed to be too nice to make the big calls as England manager. The England team need a midfield playmaker, someone such as Arsenal's Jack Wilshere. Do you think an international footballer whose peak years were in a team that included Paul Gascoigne, and later Paul Scholes, would not recognise the worth of an individual in the heart of the field who could dictate the tempo and control the play? Do you think a former club mate of Paul Merson, Guy Scamendiata and Juninho would not appreciate how the vision of one player, if used correctly, could elevate an otherwise unexceptional squad? Southgate knows what he needs in Russia. A guaranteed fit Wilshere might do it, or an upgraded version of Shelvey. That is his problem. He has neither of those things. His last experience of Wilshere was a late withdrawal from England's squad for matches against Holland and Italy, and he will not pick Shelvey, having failed to balance the rave reviews he hears every week with the player that emerges from statistical breakdowns. 3 assists all season, 1 goal and a pass completion rate of 72.4%. That is not Andrea Pirlo. That is not Toni Kroos. That is not even Jordan Henderson, whose pass completion for Liverpool is 84.4%. Shelvey is more ambitious in his range, true, but more than a quarter of his attempts do not reach the target. Misplaced ambition can prove costly at the highest level against countries such as Belgium, Germany or Brazil. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's injury has led to increasing calls for John Joe Shelvey to be included. Southgate will name his 23-man squad with 7 players on standby on Wednesday, and the injury to Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has led to increasing calls for Wilshere and Shelvey to be included. England are short in central midfield, where Henderson has won over many critics by growing into an impressive David Batty type, but has little light to complement his shade. Eric Dier is a converted centre-half, while many of Southgate's other options are happier farther forward. Fabian Delph can play centrally, but in his 25 starts for Manchester City this season, he has only once been used in the position, compared to 24 times on the defensive left. It would be a gamble for Southgate to try to convert him into Henderson's partner in time for the opening game against Tunisia on June 18, but it may be a gamble he has to take. And Delph's pass completion rate this season stands at 93%, with 2 assists, albeit with a team in which a pass is always on. As it stands, Southgate has workers in midfield, and workers are interchangeable. Playmakers are not. Pick a playmaker in midfield, Wilshere or Shelvey, and the team have to be shaped around the presence. In Wilshere's case, we know the pitfalls immediately. Sadly, his fitness issues can flare at any time. At the last England get-together, Wilshere announced he had proven his fitness at last, only to pull out with a tendon-related knee injury the next day. Behind the scenes, all was not as positive as it would seem. Southgate was concerned that England needed to train at an intensity that was beyond Wilshere. Far from proving his fitness, he proved only how much careful handling he would require in a tournament. And what a spanner it would throw in the works if a week of preparation was rendered worthless by a sudden setback. If Harry Kane, say, got injured, England would have Marcus Rashford or Jamie Vardy to come in. They have different styles as individuals while being, in essence, like-for-like replacements. Yet there would be no understudy for Wilshere. He could go to bed fine and wake up doubtful, and England cannot risk that with a player in such a unique position. Throwing the plan up in the air at short notice is what killed Steve McLaren in Croatia. Manchester City's Fabian Delph can play centrally but has spent much of this year at left-back. McLaren's idea for the doomed Euro 2008 qualifier was to play Rio Ferdinand centrally, stepping into a midfield as Southgate used to, with Ledley King and John Terry either side. King's experience playing left of three for Glenn Hoddle at Tottenham was considered essential. Terry wasn't comfortable covering the outside position and going out to wide areas, so he and Ferdinand switched. Then one of King's many injuries flared almost as England were boarding the flight to Zagreb. Jamie Carragher, his replacement, was probably the best of it at the back for England that night, but the confidence of the group did not recover. King's presence was vital and, ultimately, it was a mistake depending so heavily on an injury-prone player. It was much the same for Fabio Capello with King at the World Cup in 2010. He lasted until half-time of the first match against the United States, but confessed to defensive partner Terry that he was struggling after no more than 5 minutes. That is the stuff of nightmares for Southgate. Injuries are part of sport and can happen even in the tamest circumstances. Indeed, Southgate was the beneficiary when Mark Wright, who would have started at Euro 96, strained knee ligaments 12 minutes into a pre-tournament friendly against Hungary. But there is a difference between coping with fate and inviting danger. Another disappointment for Wilshere could also be a downer for the camp, and to construct a midfield around him risks being hostage to fortune. Southgate, surely, is too sensible for that. Shelvey, meanwhile, has no doubt grown up since the days when he arrived for an England age group match in a Bentley driven by his agent. He has even matured since the first game of the season, when a moment of rashness cost Newcastle dearly against Tottenham. Yet he still has more cards than assists this season, and continues to look best on a brief match-of-the-day highlights reel, when his long-range passes are lingered on by the camera, much as Shelvey lingers on them himself. One of Southgate's misgivings is that Newcastle's Shelvey spends too long admiring his work. This is one of Southgate's misgivings, that Shelvey spends too long admiring his work, isn't mobile enough and could be marked easily. It is the same view Terry Venables held of Matt Letizia, which is why he was not a teammate of Southgate's at Euro 96. Leaving all this aside, and the issue of character remains. The story has been told on these pages before, but Mike Kelly's advice to Roy Hodgson as he agonized over the last 4 names in Switzerland's squad for the 1994 World Cup bears revisiting. Pick 4 you like, said Kelly, a coaching assistant Hodgson and many others greatly respected. Meaning, pick the best tourists, the best to have around the camp, the most genial, the lowest maintenance. Particularly as the final additions to the squad are the least likely to play and need to be the sort to stay cheerful. Shelvey has worked with a psychologist this season since his second red card. It has paid off, but would Shelvey fit Kelly's criterion of a good tourist if he wasn't starting? The continued selection of Jake Livermore, 78.6 pass completion rate, 2 assists, who answered a late call by scrapping a family holiday this season, having not been initially named for friendly matches against Brazil and Germany, is indicative of the personality tournament football demands. So, being England manager is not simply a case of deciding who gets to play Pirlo this summer. If there was someone who could perform the role, he would be the first name on Southgate's team sheet. There isn't. Pirlo stayed fit. Pirlo didn't send more than a quarter of his passes astray. Southgate will have thought it through and, unless he is now prepared to risk it all on Wilshere, there is no Pirlo option. England's manager may fit the company blazer, but he is no blazing fool. On the day Arsène Wenger was bowing out at Huddersfield, another cryptic exchange with Mauricio Pochettino showed what a trooper the Arsenal man has been. He battled through a good 10 years of austerity after making the move to the Emirates Stadium, without complaint. It was 2013-14 before Arsenal went big, £42.5 million for Mesut Ozil. Indeed, during the fallow years, the board often used Wenger's loyalty as a shield with tales of a £100 million kitty that he just wouldn't spend. Wenger never once broke ranks and revealed the truth. Only now are we discovering how difficult those times were for him. Tottenham boss Mauricio Pochettino is not going to be the Arsène Wenger of White Hart Lani. Pochettino, by contrast, doesn't sound too keen on doing a year, even a match, with the financial shackles on. His message to Chairman Daniel Levy, the talk of being brave and taking risks, of assessing the past years and trying to win big trophies, not thinking we're the cleverest people in the world winning trophies on small money, could not have been clearer. He is not going to be the Wenger of White Hart Lane, patiently fronting reduced circumstances, regarding fourth place as a trophy, talking economics and financial fair play while rivals prey on his best players. It helped that Wenger had won so much before austerity. Had taken the league 3 times, he had done the double twice, he had marshalled the only unbeaten season since the Victorian age. Pochettino has won nothing anywhere. Maybe he caught himself saying Tottenham deserved more credit for third place, 23 points behind the champions, and didn't like the sound of that. Either way, he is ambitious at a time when Tottenham's priority is to maintain current levels of achievement married to financial stability and a smooth move to a new home. There will be good times down the line, but Pochettino isn't talking like a man happy to be patient. As Manchester City reread the record books on Sunday, there was only one problem: they didn't look like Manchester City. For some reason they did not wear their instantly recognizable sky blue, even though there was no reason to change so much as the socks. They wore a generic all-black every can. The away colors of the modern every club. Everyone looks like every club these days. Everyone has a little black number in the wardrobe. Black, a darkest navy, or a variation on that theme. Chelsea's third kit is probably camouflage grey or some nonsense, but basically, it's black. Huddersfield's third is navy with pink trim, but it's trying to be black. In all, 12 of the 20 Premier League clubs this season wore an every kit in some matches. For Crystal Palace, Leicester, Manchester United and West Ham it was the second choice. For Arsenal, Bournemouth, Brighton, Chelsea, Huddersfield, Manchester City, Newcastle and Swansea, the third. And why would anyone want the team dressed like all the others? Distinction is what clubs are about. What makes Bristol Rovers stand out, apart from those blue and white quarters? Why do so many cities divide into red and blue halves? Of course, nobody has exclusivity on colour. Brighton, Huddersfield and West Brom all wear blue and white stripes. But Huddersfield are a lighter blue, West Brom darker, while Brighton also wear blue shorts. Manchester City play in roughly the same colour as Coventry. Yet when we see City's shirts in the Premier League, we don't think Coventry. They're miles away now. City are distinctive. City stand out, except on Sunday when at first look they could have been anyone. Who buys this stuff? Who buys a Manchester City shirt that is barely distinguishable from versions at Swansea, Brighton or West Ham? Who buys every can? Last week, when Fulham played at Derby in the playoffs, they wore black, but it was black with a purpose. Fulham's colours are white-black-white. They changed into black-white-black. See what they did. No matter how they mix and match shirts, shorts and socks, they are always Fulham. They are always white or black, or a combination of the two. They have identity. That is what City were missing on Sunday. Their identity. Until they start playing, of course. Then we all know who they are. Amid the climax to the Premier League season, the bravest performance of the weekend largely passed unnoticed. Refereeing the National League playoff final, Neil Hare sent off Liam Wright-Hales of Tranmere after 54 seconds. There may only have been 16,306 inside Wembley, but given that this is the biggest match in the league in which Hare referees, he is only a linesman in the Football League. That took guts. Wright-Hales flew into a tackle on Bournemouth's Ricky Shakes that could have caused serious injury. Late, a red card all day, but how many of our officials, even the best ones, would have been brave enough to show it less than a minute into such a game? Hare's heart must have been pounding, but he did the right thing. There were no complaints, not even from Tranmere manager Mickey Mellon. Remember Howard Webb ducking out of sending off Nigel de Jong for a horrendous high kick into the chest of Xabi Alonso in the first half of the 2010 World Cup final. Hare showed what should have happened. It doesn't matter what the time is. A foul is a foul. Liam Wright-Hales of Tranmere was sent off after 54 seconds of the National League playoff final. The heart of referee Neil Hare must have been pounding, but he did the right thing at Wembley.